Kevin said, voice rough, but I don't chase what's running, I'm not running, I ask questions when I'm ready, she said, eyes flicking down to his mouth again, and right now she stepped in close, chest brushing his, her breath hitched slightly like heat surprised her. I'm not ready to talk. Kevin's heart was a drum beat now. Her hand slid to the back of his neck. Stop talking, she murmured, use your mouth for something else. Kevin moved. He didn't kiss her gently, their mouths crashed like a second storm. Her fingers dug into his shoulders, pulling him down. While his hands gripped the curve of her hips through the shirt, she made a sound and pushed him backward until he hit the edge of the couch. Then she climbed onto his lap like she'd been there before. I knew it, she whispered against his jaw. I knew you'd taste like danger. Kevin pulled back just enough to breathe. And you taste like trouble. Good, she said. Then don't stop. Are you doing this to feel alive again? He asked. Her smile was sharp. Aren't you? They didn't know each other, but right now that didn't matter because the world was after her and he had just stepped between her and extinction, and because when everything's trying to kill you sometimes the only way to survive is to burn. His hand slid up her thighs over the small of her back, tracing her like he was memorizing something, already fading. Her breath hitched again. Kevin, she whispered softer now, almost surprised. He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, like he had all the time in the world. When they didn't make it to the bedroom, they didn't need to, and Kevin didn't, not until the fire was embers. You're the first one who touched me like that and didn't die, she said. Kevin turned his head slowly. I'm not most people, she nodded. I know. She was quiet for a long time after that, curled against him, eyes half closed but not asleep. She stayed pressed against him, cheek on his chest, legs tangled with his. Kevin's eyes opened instantly. They both heard it, a scan drone, and when he finally reached up and brushed her hair back, she didn't flinch. She just said quietly, if they find me they won't kill me fast. Kevin's jaw clenched. Then they don't find you. She said the words that changed everything. I wasn't supposed to fall, I wasn't supposed to survive, but I did. Kevin leaned in, resting his forehead to hers. Good, he said, now we survive together. Polaris stirred against him just after 4 a.m. when the wind outside dropped to silence, and Kevin's chest rose steady beneath her cheek, something breathing. She'd been trained to feel moments like this. Her hand drifted from Kevin's chest to her plasma pistol on the floor. Then there it was, a low thrum. He moved fast, pulling her with him, grabbing the rifle from the corner. She didn't bother toning the shirt, she just moved, bare legs, gun in hand, hair wild, eyes locked onto the floor where he whispered. She pointed underneath now, the crawl space. He'd boarded it up years ago when rats got in, but it was still there. Kevin dropped to one knee, ripped the rug aside. Polaris slipped in first, he followed, pulling the hatch shut above them. Darkness, the space was tight, his back brushed the beams. Polaris' body pressed against his outside. The whine of the drone moved closer. If they see 2 heat signatures, they'll search. If they see 1, Kevin met her eyes. Even in the dark he could feel them burning. You want me to what? Play dead? No, she murmured, I want you to hold still. Then she moved her body, shifted, her legs sliding around his waist, pressing in tight, her skin against his. Her lips brushed his ear. I can mask my own heat signature, she whispered, but not yours, not alone. She didn't wait for his answer. Her mouth found his again. She kissed him like it meant something now, because it did. Kevin responded without hesitation, one hand gripping the back of her thigh, the other braced against the beam behind her, their bodies locked together, breath sinking, hearts thudding in tandem. Outside, the drone hovered just above Polar, wrapped her arms around his neck, and voice barely audible. You're the first one who touched me like that, she whispered, and didn't die. He remembered and smiled. She buried her face against his neck, her whisper shaking, I don't know why I care. If you do. Then the drone stopped. They gone? He whispered. Yes. Still. She didn't pull away. He felt her breathing slow, but she stayed close, wrapped around him like leaving would break something she didn't want to name. You okay? He asked. She nodded against him. I should have run alone, but you didn't. I'm still not sure if that was a mistake. Kevin leaned his head back against the beam and exhaled slowly. Too late to go back. Then she pulled back and looked at him. I'm hunted by people who taught me how to kill. I've got data in my skull that could start a war. I used to be one of them. Kevin, her voice cracked. I don't get to be soft. Kevin's reply was quiet. I'm not asking you to be. Then he pushed the hatch open just enough to check the air clear. Drone gone. He climbed out. First reached back down. She took his hand as he pulled her up. She paused at the edge of the opening, looked at him. You're not what I expected. Kevin arched a brow. Want to go back to what you had? No, she said flatly, I want to kill what's coming. He nodded. We'll do both. By the time the sun broke they were already loading weapons into a duffel. Polera didn't talk much. Like part of her had decided that Kevin wasn't going to be a temporary shield. The morning sun hit hard. Kevin squinted past the roof line of his battered vineyard house as Polar hoisted the duffel bag of weapons over her shoulder. Too still. Polar didn't notice the heat or didn't care. She moved like a predator. You said they trained you to kill, he said, following her down the slope behind the vines, but not why they're hunting you. She stopped. I interrogated prisoners, she said. Polar turned her head slightly. Before I ran. Before all of this, that was my job. You were a torturer. I was an extractor, she said flatly. I pulled classified intel from humans. Earth didn't even know they'd lost your kind. Soldiers, scientists, pilots. We'd abduct, disappear and dissect them down to the soul. Kevin's pulse slowed. But I didn't know what they were doing with the intel, she said. Not until later. She took a slow breath. They weren't just learning, they were building, engineering a biological weapon targeted for your species. You found out, he asked. I broke protocol and accessed a restricted neural file by accident, she said. I wasn't supposed to survive it. But you did. She nodded. And I ran with the data stored in my spinal implant. Kevin stared at her. So they don't just want you gone, they want the truth buried, and if they can't extract the data from me, her voice trailed off, they'll disassemble what's left and try anyway. Then Kevin stepped forward, reached past the straps on her back and brushed her dark hair aside. I need to see it, she hesitated. Then slowly she turned around and lifted the edge of her flannel shirt. There, just at the base of her spine, was the scar. Not surgical, not stitched. This was something else. Kevin ran 2 fingers down the edge of it. You shouldn't touch me like that. Unless you're ready to take me, she murmured. Kevin's fingers didn't stop. What if I already have? I told you. For more of this kind of content you can subscribe to the channel, like the video and leave a comment. The first slam rattled Kevin's door like a shotgun blast. The second nearly cracked it off its hinges. He was already on his feet. Boots, half-laced, flashlight in one hand and a wrench in the other because the power was out. The radio was dead, and something outside was trying to get in. Lightning cracked the sky open. In that blinding flash he saw her silhouette through the frosted glass, humanoid, soaked, bleeding, holding something heavy, and aimed straight at him. The door opened. Kevin stumbled back, wrench up, expecting a junkie or a psycho. What stepped in, dripping wet and crackling with furious tension, was none of those things. She was tall, beautiful, purple skin, dark hair pasted to her face, blood on her lip and in her right hand, and humming weapon that didn't belong to any military. He knew. She locked eyes with him like he was prey, then spat blood on the floor. I need this house, she said flatly. You stay out of my way. Kevin didn't move. You bleeding on my rug. She raised the weapon a few inches. Want me to bleed you on it instead? Kevin stepped back, not because he was afraid, but because he was smart. Fine, he said. You're inside. Weapon down. She didn't lower it. You want me to stitch that leg or not? He asked. Her jaw tightened, just staggered sideways and dropped onto the couch like it owed her money. The weapon stayed pointed at the floor but never left her hand. Kevin grabbed a towel, some antiseptic and the whiskey he kept for nights just like this. He crouched near her knee, eyeing the long pulsing gash across her upper thigh. He touched her skin. Who the hell are you? He muttered. You ask a lot of questions, she said when he poured whiskey over the wound. She hissed. He wrapped her leg tight. Hands firm, steady. Her eyes tracked him the whole time. When he was done she reached out fast and caught his wrist in her palm. You touch me again, she said low, and you better be ready to finish what you start. Kevin didn't blink. You're welcome, sweetheart. The weapon finally fell from her fingers. She exhaled once, but she still didn't tell him her name. The storm howled outside. Kevin stood, eyes never leaving her, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed her one. She sniffed it, then drank it. Then without a word she leaned her head back against the couch and closed her eyes. You're not from around here, he said. Her voice came out almost bored. Brilliant deduction. Then she opened one eye and looked at him. I'm Polera. Kevin nodded once. Kevin. Lightning struck again, so close it lit the whole room. Polaris's eyes flicked toward the window, then back to him. You've got no idea what kind of storm just walked into your life, Kevin. Kevin sipped his drink. Maybe I like storms. Kevin didn't sleep. He sat near the window with the shotgun across his lap, eyes on the storm that hadn't let up in the fireplace. The fire spat weak embers. The power still hadn't come back. Behind him on the couch, Polaris slept like a wolf in recovery. Curled tight, one arm tucked under her head, the plasma pistol still within reach. Kevin stood, grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. The desert was wet and steaming. He followed the scorch marks across the gravel past the half-dead grapevines and over a ridge. He kept going, boots sliding in wet soil. Then he saw it, an escape pod, black, curved like a bullet, half buried in red sand smoke rising from vents burned out and cracked open at the back. Kevin circled it once, checked inside, no sign of other passengers, just blood. Her blood. He headed back inside. Polero was awake, sitting on the floor wrapped in a wool blanket from his linen closet. Her bare legs were crossed, the bandage on her thigh dark with blood. She looked up when he walked in but didn't say a word. I found your ride, Kevin said, tossing the thermal regulator. He pulled off the pod onto the table. 1 mile west. Looks like someone tried to cook you inside it. Her eyes tracked the device, then she looked at him. That wasn't part of the plan. You always have plans that involve getting shot down. I always have plans that work, she said, voice sharp, until I stopped following orders. He grabbed the first aid kit again and crouched in front of her. Let me look, I can handle it, she muttered, but didn't move when he started unwrapping the bandage. The skin around the wound was bruised but clean. You're lucky, he said, half an inch deeper, and I'd be burying you with my grandfather's wine cellar. She voice dropped to a murmur. Is that where you take all your wounded alien guests? Kevin glanced up. Her eyes were on him. She reached down and touched his hand. You're good with those, she said. His voice was quiet. With what, your hands? Her gaze didn't move, precise, controlled, dangerous. Kevin's breath slowed. The blanket slipped slightly off her shoulder, revealing the edge of the strange black mesh undersuit clinging to her skin like liquid. He forced his focus back to the bandage. What are you running from? Polar didn't speak for a long time. He finished the wrap, secured it tight, and let his hands fall to his knees. Then she said, my people. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Your people tried to kill you? No, they tried to make me something I didn't want to be. Kevin leaned back, watching her closely. You want to elaborate on that? Just reached for the whiskey again and took a long drink. Then she stood. I need clothing. Yeah, he said, standing too. That's next on the list. Then she took a step forward. The blanket slipped further. You're not scared of me, she said. No, you should be. He shook his head. I've seen scary. You're not it. She stepped even closer, now inches from him. You don't ask a lot of questions for a man who just gave shelter to a hunted alien carrying stolen tech. I figure the answers will come out, Kevin said, voice steady. One way or another. Good, she said. Because I don't like being interrogated. Then she turned and walked to the fireplace. Polera knelt near the flames and stared into them. You found my pod, she said quietly. That means they will too. Kevin nodded. Then we burn it? No, she turned. We leave it. Let them think I didn't survive. You think that'll work? I don't know. Her voice was raw now. But I'm out of moves and you're the only human I've met who hasn't tried to trade me in for parts. He stepped closer. What do they want? They want to erase me. Kevin didn't ask why, because he already knew what that meant. You don't send a kill squad after someone for a parking ticket. You do it because they saw something or stole something that could blow everything open. He knelt beside her. I don't scare easy, Polera. I know, I've got gun supplies. She turned to him. And why help me? His voice was low. Because you didn't shoot me. Polera stared at him. Her breath brushed his cheek. Keep it that way, she said, and turned back to the fire. Kevin stayed there beside her. He didn't know what was coming next, but he was in it now. She sat curled on the floor, her back resting against the stone hearth, the flickering flames catching every angle of her face, her bare shoulder, her collarbone. The blanket had fallen somewhere between wrapped and suggestive, and Kevin could tell she didn't care. Kevin moved first. He walked past her into the hall and pulled open the closet in the spare bedroom, found the old navy blue flannel he kept around for winter. He walked back and held it out. Not exactly your size, he said. Polera didn't take it. Then slowly she Stood the blanket dropped. Kevin didn't look away. She took the shirt and without blinking slipped one arm through then the other. She tugged the hem down over her hips, stopping just short of decent. It barely covered her, but she didn't button it. She stepped closer. Instead she touched the side of his face, cool fingers on hot skin. Her thumb traced his jaw then slid to his mouth. She tilted her head. You look at me like you want something. I do. What I was, she said. What I've done. You also told me what they're trying to do, Kevin said, stepping closer, which means you've already done more than any of them will admit. Her voice was low. I've hurt people, so have I. Polar tilted her head. You kill. Kevin didn't flinch when I have to. That surprised her. He touched her again. His hand slid to her waist, thumb pressing lightly into the hollow of her hip. Do you feel that? He asked. She nodded barely. That's real, he said, and if it ends badly it ends real. He said that was enough. She pulled him down into her. This wasn't like before. It wasn't just survival. It wasn't just adrenaline. Her lips met his again, slower this time, hungrier. The bag of weapons dropped to the floor. He backed her into the wall of the cabin storage shed, hands on her thighs. She didn't resist. She groaned softly, the sound of someone who hadn't let herself feel anything for far too long. She arched into him, breath caught between pain and pleasure, control and chaos. When it was over she didn't leave his arms. She didn't put the shirt back on. She sat there on the cabin floor, curled in his lap, head on his shoulder. Kevin traced circles on her bare back, and for a long time neither of them spoke until she said quietly, the data is encrypted in my spinal cortex. You'd need alien tech to extract it. We find some. He said, it's not that simple. It never is, he replied. She smiled, a real one. This time, tired but honest. Even if I get it out they'll know. They'll come hard. Then we hit harder. She looked up. You're not military. You're not trained. I've fought worse, Kevin said. Like what? My own damn life that stopped her. I'm going to get you killed, she whispered. Not if I kill them first. We move before nightfall, she said, where there's a relay station buried in the hills west of here. If I can get inside I can send a burst, she said to everyone. You sure you want to follow me into this? She said. Kevin nodded once. He didn't hesitate. They left before noon. Kevin stripped the house of anything useful, knives, solar chargers, painkillers, ammo, then torched the place from the inside out. If someone came sniffing, all they'd find was ash and a ruined wine cellar. Polero watched from the hilltop above, arms crossed, shirt flapping loose in the hot wind. Kevin met her there, smoke curling behind him. You ready? He asked. She turned and started walking. They didn't speak for the next hour. The terrain turned mean quickly. Kevin stayed sharp, weapon strapped to his back, eyes sweeping the Reggio lines. Polero moved ahead, focused, efficient. She was limping slightly, favoring her bandaged thigh, but she didn't slow down. Eventually Kevin caught up. How far to the relay station? He asked. 3 miles. And how far until they catch us? They won't. They climbed a steep incline to a narrow ridge overlooking a winding trail that dipped through a sparse forest of gnarled pine and stone. As Kevin stepped onto the ridge, a sharp sound cracked from below. Snap, he froze. So did she. Polar turned, pistol already raised. Kevin crouched low, sweeping his scope along the tree, and nothing. Then he shimmered, cloaked, camouflaged alien tech. Polar moved. She leapt from the ridge like a strike born of instinct. Midair her pistol lit up, blue light flashing once, twice before her body disappeared into the brush. Gunfire erupted. Kevin ducked, dropped to one knee, and opened fire toward the muzzle. Flashes, one scream, two, then a third shape broke from the cover, running low and fast. Kevin saw the armor, bounty hunter, and they weren't after money. They were here to erase. Kevin didn't hesitate. He adjusted for wind, fired once. The hunter flipped forward and collapsed. Polaris screamed. Kevin bolted down the ridge, gun raised, heart hammering. He caught her in the clearing mid-kick, slamming her boot into a hunter's helmet until the man crumpled. Her face was all rage, now blood on her cheek. 2 more emerged from the east. Kevin dropped one with a clean shot to the leg. The other raised a cannon. Too slow. Kevin rushed him. No time to aim. He swung the butt of the rifle hard against the man's helmet. Kevin grabbed the falling body before it hit the dirt, spun the cannon in his hands and fired at the last one sneaking up behind Polar. The man went down hard. Polaris spun, looked at Kevin. You good? He asked, breathing heavy. I've had worse. She winced, touched her thigh. Blood seeped fresh through the bandage. Can you walk? She narrowed her eyes. I can kill, that's what matters. Kevin nodded, then scanned The clearing 5 bodies they searched them quick took weapons ration bars a single med injector Kevin tucked it into. His belt Polar crouched over the last man still alive. Why now? She asked him. Coldly, why here? The man laughed, you should have stayed dead Polaris. She leaned closer, who sent you? He wheezed, everyone. Kevin raised his weapon. Polaris stopped him with one hand, no. Kevin arched a brow she crouched lower. You're going to deliver a message. The man laughed again, I can barely breathe. Then listen while you still. Can she whispered Kevin watched her she wasn't bluffing she leaned close and said something Kevin didn't catch. Something in her language the hunter's eyes went wide then she stood let's move. Kevin stepped beside her what did you say I told him the truth she said that I've stopped running they pushed forward. Into the forest no words between them Kevin found a half-collapsed trail that curved beneath the ledge hidden from. Above they ducked inside a natural cave opened at the end lit faintly by geothermal veins glowing under the stone. Warm and safe Polar dropped the duffel slid down against the wall her face was pale now Kevin didn't wait he pulled the shirt off her shoulder peeled the bandage from her thigh the wound had reopened muscle torn blood thick and dark hold still, he said he cleaned it. Injected the stem from the hunter's kit sealed it with a heat patch, you saved me, she murmured he glanced up, you've saved me twice. She reached for him then, I'm starting to think I wasn't meant to survive alone. I think you survived, he whispered, so I'd find you, she kissed him then still pressing her lips to his she whispered, your planet is crude. She pulled him gently onto the warm stone floor their bodies tangling again in the steamlit cave, but your bodies are addictive. Kevin lay back on the stone Pola half curled against him her thigh bandaged and her pulse finally steady she hadn't let go of him since they'd collapsed there her fingers still rested on his stomach, I thought I'd die in silence, she said finally voice quiet like the cave might echo betrayal, some prison cell airless alone. Kevin turned his head to her. You almost did, she nodded, and I would have deserved it. No, he said firm, you wouldn't. Polaris' eyes were dark her voice darker I tortured men Kevin women your kind some of them didn't even know why we took them they just vanished, you ran, he said, you stopped your fighting against it now. That doesn't wipe it away. No, he said, but it means something. Then. Softly, why are you still with me? Kevin leaned and brushed a lock of damp hair from her cheek, because when you look at me you don't flinch I wasn't supposed to want anything again she said Kevin looked at her sharp and steady. What changed her fingers curled lightly against his chest you then her mouth found his Kevin responded like a fuse finding flame he rolled with her his body over hers now hands braced on the warm stone heart hammering like it remembered what it meant to beat for something Polaris's breath caught as he traced the line of her jaw with his lips then down her throat pausing at the collarbone where bruises from the earlier fight had bloomed faintly under her skin. You hurt? He asked. Only if you stop. She pulled him closer and this time there were no words Kevin didn't think he felt Polar didn't resist. She gave and for the first time since either of them had started running they stopped when it was over Kevin lay half curled beside her his arm across her waist their bodies slick with sweat and radiant heat then she said, I was made to be a weapon I thought if I could feel something again anything maybe that part would die. Kevin's voice was low. Against her shoulder it's not dead I know her fingers slid along his arm. That's what scares me they lay in silence again Kevin broke the quiet when we get that data out what happens her voice was emotionless earth erupts my people panic the weapon project gets exposed maybe burned maybe just buried deeper and they'll want me dead twice as bad then we don't stop he said. We burn everything they've built Polar turned her head and looked at him you sound like someone with a death wish he met her stare you sound like someone who just found a reason to live I can't promise I won't run again she said then. Run in my direction he said every damn time she leaned and pressed her lips to his neck you say the right things too easily that's because I mean them they didn't speak again that night they held each other while the heat from the earth kept them alive and outside that cave in the cold wind of the Nevada hills. Something darker moved. A tracker drone coasted above the rocks, silent as a ghost. Its red eye blinked once and sent a signal home. The signal reached them before the sunrise did. Polaris sat bolt upright in the dim cave, heart racing, already reaching for her pistol. Kevin was up the same instant. The heat from their bodies had barely faded, but the air was suddenly cold, not from the geothermal stone beneath them, from the buzz in her neural implant. She didn't need to check the feed, she felt it, the silent ping, a confirmation code. One of theirs. They found us, she said flat. Kevin was already lacing his boots. How much time? Maybe hours, maybe less if they're local. She stood fast, grabbing her gear, sliding her shirt back on. We moved now. By the time they crested the last ridge, the horizon was turning dull gold. The sky cracked with heat, and there, partially buried in a bluff of dead rock, was the relay station. The hatch was sealed, faded from years of erosion, but her palm lit it up the second she touched the interface. A green pulse ran through the metal. The door hissed and groaned, dust rising from the floor as it slid open. They stepped inside. This place feels safe to you? Kevin asked. No, she said, but it's our best shot. They reached the control room. Cracked screens. One still worked barely. Its dull interface flickered to life under her touch. This relay was built decades ago by infiltration scouts, Polaris said, typing fast. No one's touched it since. But if I can reroute the burst through the underground ArcNet, I can send the data packet to 3 different exo stations at once. Sounds like a big if. It is, she said. That's why I need you to watch my back. Kevin checked the doorway again. Always Polar plugged a thin silver cable into the port at the base of her skull. Kevin tensed when she winced. You okay? Always, she echoed. Then she slumped slightly. Her eyes snapped open a second later, but they weren't looking here, they were watching somewhere else. Her breathing slowed, body half frozen. The screen lit up, rows of code symbols Kevin couldn't read. Data extraction initiated, neural encryption failing, core memory unspooling. Now Kevin stepped closer. Polar, she didn't answer. Her eyes tracked invisible lines of code, lips parted just enough to breathe. Sweat beat down her jaw. Then the system beeped, a shrill tone. Lockout primary burst failed. She gasped, hands flying across the panel. No, 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 no. What happened? They rerouted the ArcNet. Someone on the other side is watching for me. Her breath shook. They blocked the transmission, so send it again. I can't. The station security system just locked me out. I only had one chance. Kevin grabbed her wrist. Then we find another node. There isn't one, not out here. Her voice cracked. Kevin cooped her jaw, forcing her eyes back to his. Look at me. You're not losing this. We're not losing this. Polar clenched her jaw. I can't break the firewall from here, not without something. She stopped. Her fingers dove into the pouch at her hip and pulled out the encrypted comm chip they'd stolen from the bounty hunter back in the woods. Give me 30 seconds, she said. Kevin raised an eyebrow. You're trusting tech from a guy who wanted you dead? No, she said, teeth gritted. I'm using him to screw his employer. She slid the chip into the console. Then the system unlocked. The screen bloomed alive. A progress bar appeared. Secondary pathway secured, uplink active. Kevin looked at her. How much time do you need? Polaris stood still, back arched, cable still pulsing in the port at the base of her skull. Kevin could see it draining her. Her breathing heavier now, hands gripping the console like the data was ripping out of her in pieces. But she didn't stop. Uplink complete, file released, distribution confirmed. The screen flickered once, then went black. She collapsed forward into Kevin's arms. He caught her before her knees hit the floor. Pola, hey, stay with me. I'm fine, she breathed. I didn't know it would feel like that. Kevin held her tight, her body trembling slightly in his grip. You did it, he whispered. She nodded slowly. I sent them everything, the project specs, the internal orders, the weapons blueprints, the test data. If even half the stations see it, my people are going to tear themselves apart. You just lit a fuse and I'm the match, she said, pulling back just enough to meet his eyes. Then the silence changed. Footsteps. Kevin was already up, gun raised, pulling Polaro behind a steel beam near the hatch. The relay station shook faintly from the landing pressure outside. Hovercraft, small, fast, not a transport, not a drone. An assassin pod. Pola took a slow breath. They sent a closer unit, one who doesn't ask questions. Great, Kevin muttered. I'm starting to really hate these guys. Then you'll love what happens next. The door blew open. Smoke filled the corridor. A Single figure stepped through armored in deep violet plates. Kevin took aim. Polar touched his arm. He's mine. He didn't argue. She stepped out. The assassin stopped. Then like a fuse catching fire they collided. The fight wasn't flashy, no wasted moves. Every hit landed. Every blow counted. They moved like reflections of each other, trained by the same system. The assassin landed a blow that sent Polar into a wall. She rebounded, slid low, cracked his knee backward. Kevin didn't shoot. This wasn't his fight, it was hers. When it was over she stood panting over the body, arm bleeding, hair tangled, breath ragged. Kevin stepped forward. You okay? She looked down at the body, then at the empty door, then at him and smiled. It's done, she whispered. Kevin crossed the room, wrapped her in his arms and kissed her, and she kissed him back like nothing else in the world mattered, because for the first time nothing else did. Then the relay station burned behind them. Smoke curled through the cracks in the steel roof as Kevin and Polero ran, limping, bruised, breathless, down a half-collapsed slope littered with ash and torn branches. The sun had dipped behind the ridge line, casting long gold